Good afternoon to everybody. My name is Lindiwe Sisulu. I've been given the honor to be program director today as we put our dear Comrade Ebie to rest. I will ask you now, at the hour of 1400 hours, please to stand up for the national anthem to begin the service.
very carefully, and while listening, sometimes I even asked him, "Are you feeling sleepy?" He says, "No, I'm just considering and I'm just comprehending what I am listening to." And a passionate soul, a dedicated person. Let me say, not only in our country, but across the globe, from the east to the west, from north to south. He rubbed shoulders with different political parties, not forgetting that he was so well known not to forget Palestine. In Palestine, if we had to go today and ask them, "Do you know Ebrahim Ismail Ebrahim?" they will say, "Yes, we do know him." And he was involved there, and we say to all of us that Ebrahim, a promise to you that we will not forget Palestine. What you have done, we will carry on doing it, insha'Allah. Insha'Allah, Almighty's will prevail. Jazakallah. Thank you. Ameen.
Thank you very much for that prayer. And thank you very much also for reminding us of Ebie's passion for Palestine. We are where we are now in our dealings with Palestine, in our relations with Palestine, because he led us there. We will now have a video that will be played for us on the life and times of Ebie.
As a child, you see, I was very much conscious of the system. But my real involvement came in 1952 during the Defiance campaign. We were all thinking of armed struggle at that time, and then I was recruited into MK and I joined very readily.
Ebrahim was one of them, was selected to carry out one of the most sensational attacks in Devon. 3 pylons were blown. The whole city of Devon was in darkness. Subsequently, 19 of us were arrested, brought to trial in October 1963, and then sentenced toward the end of February 1964.
I first got to Robben Island in 1964. I was sentenced to 15 years.
Conditions were terrible, absolutely unbelievable. And they would just beat you up for absolutely no reason. We had no contact with the outside world at all. We were not allowed attorneys. We had one visit every 6 months, one letter every 6 months. And when our visitors came, it was very carefully monitored. If you talked anything about prison conditions, the visit was stopped. We were not given enough food. We always went hungry.
Released in 1979, he was forced into exile in Swaziland, where he assumed a senior ANC position. 7 years later, he was kidnapped by South African agents, taken to Pretoria and tortured. An international campaign pressurized the government to try or release him. He was tried for treason and sentenced to a further 20 years.
I remember when the judge was convicting me, sentencing me for the second time, he said, "I want to give you a sentence so that when you come out of prison, you'll be an old man." Because that 15 years didn't do you any good. Immediately you came out of prison, you went back to the ANC. I don't know what he expected. But it was our conviction. We also actually turned the island into some type of school for revolution.
I was just given an hour's notice, and 4 o'clock I was told that my appeal was upheld and I had to leave.
I think for the first time the appellate division has ruled in favor of an abducted victims.
We welcome you among us. We know that we welcome back the dedicated soldier that we said goodbye to in 1979. We know your commitment and we know that you are once again going to play the role that the movement expects of you in our struggle. I thank you.
And he emerged there as one of the most outstanding pillars of the movement, who was not only committed and loyal, but who had the ability to explain the policy of the organization.
Pretoria, Spain has bestowed its highest honor on ANC stalwart Ebrahim Ismail. It's usually given to Spanish or foreign nationals who've distinguished themselves.
Our sincerest gratitude to the people who put that video together. And now we continue with our program. And we're all going to rise as we ask Shannon, his wife, to come on stage to give a tribute to him. And I'd like you to remain standing as she talks, please.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. And thank you to the province of Gauteng and Premier Makura for this honor, for a wonderful, wonderful person. It is an honor for me to speak here today, to say farewell to a man who I can only describe as larger than life. He was my soulmate for the past 21 years. And I've spent every day of those years learning from him, being inspired by him, and learning from his values. And I can say that I've been truly privileged to have been married to someone who is my hero. There is one word that sums up who Ebie was, and that is humility. I have never met a man who did so much in his life and was so extraordinary, yet he was so simple and understated. I never ever heard him toot his own horn. He never spoke badly about people, he never gossiped, and he had an immense respect for people of all religions, and as well celebrated South Africa for many things, but most of all for its diversity and tolerance of difference. As the pessimistic voices have grown louder in the past few years about the many challenges we face as a country, Ebie was always telling people to be positive, that South Africa has an amazing future, and that comparatively, the country had been through far, far worse. He never ever had time for people, quite honestly, who badmouthed the government or our prospects as a nation. Usually, anyway, those people are the ones who make little to try and change people's lives. The ANC may have faced a substantial challenge in these last elections, but Ebie remained a proud defender of our movement, the African National Congress. I remember when he was hospitalized just a week before the elections. He was unable to breathe because lung cancer had ravaged his lungs. And I drove him to the hospital in Pretoria to admit him. And in front of us at a robot was a car covered with ANC flags and paraphernalia. And all of a sudden, Ebie woke up and said, "Honk, honk, honk right now as we go past them," which I did. And there was Ebie. He raised his fists in a salute and he said, "Viva ANC, viva," and I've never seen comrades as happy as those that day. That was Ebie. He will fight and would fight for the ANC until he could breathe no more. Not because he was dogmatic, but because he so strongly believed in the values of what the ANC is supposed to stand for: the party of the people and the party for the people. And his greatest wish in his last months and years was that comrades returned to the ANC's historical values. He was quick to admit the ANC's recent failures and was hugely disappointed in comrades that had cared more about their pockets and luxury lifestyles than what they could really do to change the lives of people for the better. When I think of how much he sacrificed for this country and how many years of his life he was confined to a prison cell, over 20 years, hard labor on the island, torturous conditions, and a life on the run in exile. He gave so much, and all he expected in return from others was to have humanity and to care for the lot of others. His total commitment to our liberation was undefeatable. The apartheid state did everything they could to break him as one of the ANC's leaders, and they did consider him a big fish to catch in 1985-86. And once they did catch him by kidnapping him from Swaziland in December 1986, they showed him no mercy. He always knew that he would face torture or death, and his abductors, who were apartheid intelligence agents, discussed in the car as they had bound and gagged him about taking him to the infamous torture farm called Vlakplaas. He knew at that moment that he would never, as he would have never in his life, given them a piece of information. He always said he would rather die than betray one of his comrades. Had he gone to Vlakplaas instead of the Compo building in Pretoria, they would have tortured him over many months until he died. He knew their hearts of darkness, but he never showed fear. He was prepared to face no matter what came, as his cause was higher than any other, the liberation of South Africa. As he said when they tried him for a second time in 1988 for treason, he said, "My life has been one of struggle for peace and natural justice against the greatest evil of this century, the evil of racism. If I were to do my life all over again, I would follow the same path. I could never have remained indifferent to the poverty and suffering of our people." His friend Mohammed Baba had visited him when he was on trial for treason and asked him if he wasn't concerned about the fact that the state wanted to hang him at all costs and that in fact he was facing the gallows. But Ebie said to him in his calm, nonchalant way that he would do it all over again. True to form, the apartheid judge in sentencing him in January 1989 said that he had not learned his lesson from the 15 years that he had spent on Robben Island, and so he sentenced him to a further 20 years on the island so that when he got out, he would be an old man. Little did that judge know that a full bench of justices at the appeal court would overturn that ruling 2 years later. Freedom came 3 years after that, and not so long after, he met a young woman, 35 years younger than him, who became his wife. And just a few years after that, God gave him another chance at finding happiness, having a family that was his greatest wish since he was a child. And my goodness, what wonderful children God gifted to him and I. Sarah, who is now 15, is named after Ebie's beloved grandmother, who raised him. And she and her younger brother Caden, have become the greatest source of joy in Ebie's last 15 and 13 years. He never thought he would have a son, and he was thrilled to be a dad in every respect. This pandemic over the past 19 months has proved just how much his children treasure him and their utter devotion. I want to tell you that Sarah was the only child in her grade who refused to attend school in person since in her school probably, that didn't attend school since March 2020. She was simply not prepared to risk bringing the COVID virus back to him. It left her isolated from the outside world, but she used every spare minute, as did Caden, to spend hours with him. And Caden would talk, asking questions and playing games with his dad. Both Sarah and Caden have loved and cared for him through his 7-month battle with lung cancer, more than I ever thought possible from youngsters. We knew Ebie didn't really want to nurse, caring for him, so between us, we cared for his every need, right till the end. To Sarah, Caden, and our helper, Angela, who is here, thank you for all the love and care that you showed Ebie in one of the most difficult periods of his life. It was because of you, Sarah and Caden, that he had an indomitable will to live. He sought one medical opinion after another, as he just could never accept that there was nothing that could be done. I have honestly never met anyone who was so determined to live. Ebie loved his older daughter, Cassia, who is here from New York, and it meant so much to him that they were reunited after many years in the past 2 weeks. Cassia, he never ever stopped talking about you in your absence, how much he loved you, how proud he was of you, especially your medical degree at Stanford University, and how inspirational it is that you're working in public health, and particularly in HIV prevention in more or less developed countries. Ebie was the revolutionary who never retired. He left Parliament at the age of 82 and was still working doing global conflict resolution at the age of 84. Just like his friends, L.B. Sachs and Ronnie Castro's, old age only seemed to make him work harder and do more. The pandemic also gave him time and space to finish his memoirs, which he has entitled Beyond Fear. Jacana will publish this much-awaited memoir in March, and we just all really wish that he could have been here to launch it himself. It is a struggle story unlike any that I have ever read, and it will be a treasure for the ANC, the country, and the younger generation who need to know what the ANC leaders and foot soldiers went through. Saying goodbye to Ebie is the hardest thing that I will ever have to do. Ebie, you were my world. Life will never be the same without you. Rest in peace, Ebie, the love of my life. And I can promise you that we will meet on the other side, as God has reserved a very special place for you in heaven. Thank you.
Thank you. You may be seated. And thank you for standing up. It is part of our culture that when the wife of the deceased speaks, we stand up to honor her. We honor you, Shannon. We honor you for the brave stand you have taken to come and speak to us. For a wonderful, wonderful speech. And I hope that the ANC will put that in every text they have, because it captures the man of outstanding quality in a way that only you could do that. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, if you'll allow me to get my program. We're now going to ask the Honorable Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, to speak on behalf of the ANC. Dr. Lamine Zuma, please, if you will take the podium. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Program Director. Shannon, Sarah, Mkiden, Comrade Ebie's family and friends, members of the NEC, of our glorious movement, the ANC, members of the Alliance, especially the Communist Party, because Ebie was not just ANC, but he was also a staunch member of the Communist Party. Members of our alliance partners, honorable ministers who are here, MECs, and our gracious host, the Premier of Gauteng, and all the fellow mourners, the TG of the ANC, I see, and all the comrades and friends who are here. First, let me extend our condolences to you, Shannon, Sarah, and the family of Comrade Ebrahim, who is affectionately known as Ebie. We convene today with swelled tears and hearts full of grief, knowing that Comrade Ebie is also accompanied to the heavens by another dedicated and disciplined cadre of our movement, Comrade Lindiwe Mabuza. We therefore take this opportunity to thank the families of Comrade Ebie and Lindiwe because they literally surrendered them to the movement. And these gentle, dedicated revolutionaries, we shall ever be indebted to their families and also grateful to our ancestors that they gave them longish lives. It feels like only yesterday when we gathered virtually to celebrate with him his 84th birthday. I almost said 48 because Ebie never thought of himself as old. He always said, a young man like myself. As usual, even on that occasion, Comrade Ebie did not beat his chest in pride, but rather he accepted the gesture extended to him with great humility. Even though we could tell the pain that came with his ill health, he did not let his face give it away. Instead, he took the time to remind us that our mission of freeing our people from hunger, want, poverty, unemployment, and inequality was yet to be fulfilled. On that occasion, he continued to display courage. It is this courage that made him dedicate over 6 decades of his life to the greatest cause of all. His dedication often made him to be forever at the doorstep of danger. Reflecting on his life, as has been said, and of course, 18 years of that life was spent in jail, he said, I quote, "I've been actively involved in the struggle for liberation. My life has been one of struggle for peace and natural justice, for a common humanity. And despite having been sent to having been tortured and abducted from Eswatini to face a bogus trial at the heart of the fascist regime in Pretoria. No doubt the apartheid regime must have heaved and trembled as he won the 1991 appeal against its abduction. Comrade Ebie has taught us many things. You can actually see the people who were molded by Comrade Ebie. A lot of comrades who were with him in Swaziland would know how Comrade Ebie didn't only teach us by his words, but taught us by his actions. He didn't only tell you to be disciplined, he was disciplined himself. He didn't only tell you to love the people and to work for the people, he did it himself. So, Comrade Ebie was an embodiment of what an ANC and a Communist Party cadre should be. He embodied everything that we needed to be as members of this glorious movement. And of course, Ebie was, after coming back, during the negotiations, Ebie was there mobilizing, especially the democratic movement, mass democratic movement. And he also got involved quite a lot, and I won't say much because the premium show will say a lot about some of those involvements in foreign affairs and in international relations of our country. But I just want to quote one speech of his when he addressed the Turquoise Harmony Institute in 2013, and he said, I quote, "Our prosperity cannot be achieved at the expense of others. This means that the challenges of poverty, unemployment, and inequality, as well as all other challenges that our society continue to grapple with, must not only be dealt with in a narrow nationalistic terms, but rather through a broader understanding of national interest that recognizes the importance of the plight of our neighbors in the global village." Close quote. That's what he believed in, and as Comrade Shannon says, he believed in humanity. So he didn't see the prosperity of South Africa as a narrow goal for South Africa, but for the broader humanity. Consequently, he contributed to the attainment of political liberation and internationalism that was Comrade Ebie cast his eyes and energies on the global space. He understood that an underdeveloped and lack of peace in Africa or anywhere in the world was a threat not only to those parts of the world, but a threat to all of us. This diplomatic role that he played par excellence saw him contributing, bringing peace to many countries on our continent and beyond. As an able, informed, and skilled Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ebie made sure that that department and our country and the rest of the continent benefited from his wisdom. Indeed, it is a welcome gift that our nation and movement should produce a person of this caliber. It is a gift which we should replicate as we seek to fulfill that global mission of development, peace, and justice that he believed for and was willing to lay his life for. But Ebie was also a very dedicated family man, as has been said. And as the law of physics, for every force, there's an opposite but equal force. And I think that applied in Ebie's case. His family was just as dedicated to him as he was dedicated to them. And I'm mentioning this because sometimes people think to be a good revolutionary, you must not be a good family man, or you should ignore your family. And Ebie taught us that you should be dedicated to both. Of course, as has been said, in our recent elections, our movement had a humbling performance at the polls. But that, as Ebie would say should not be a cause for lament, but should be a cause for us to wake up and move towards building a strong movement, towards ensuring that we are closer to our people so that our people's hopes can be rekindled and their people's hopes and trust in the movement should be rekindled. And therefore, we must build structures that move away from the petty, personalized, and factional politics towards a more selfless structures who are at the service of the people. We must refashion them into a more dedicated and disciplined structures, just as Comrade Ebie was. Because the organization, of course, is us. So every individual component must therefore pay attention to the quality of members of the ANC. We must recruit, but we must train our people, because ANC values are not congenital, they are acquired. If we don't instill them in our people, they will not have them. So, as Ebie used to do, teaching us the politics of the ANC, the values of the ANC, so must we, as we recruit and retain our members. And that's, in my view, the biggest monument we can build for Ebie, is to get our movement to be what he was, what he himself was. Ebie was also feminist in outlook. He believed in the equality of men and women. He didn't have the superiority of men in his mind. He saw men and women as equals. And I think Ebie will be very happy if we can have a South Africa where women play a part in every area of human endeavor, where women and children are safe in this country, where no woman faces violence or death in the hands of another human being. If we were to build a society like that, that would be a monument to Ebie's life, who sacrificed his youth, his life to this movement. And of course, we must ensure that our youth are not only our future, but the present. They must be organized. They must make sure that they are part of shaping the future that they will inherit. Ebie, of course, was a Muslim, and I think he also believes in the Quran, especially the part that says you must love the next person as you would love him to love you. So he loved us in the same way as he would expect us to love him. As we rededicate ourselves to this and the objectives of the Freedom Charter, we must turn this land of our dreams and aspirations into one that is free of hatred and discrimination. In this quest, we shall be inspired by Comrade Ebie, knowing that he lived by his favorite quote from Nikolai Ostrovsky, who once said, I quote, "Man's dearest possession is life. It's given to him but once, and he must live it so that as to feel no torturing regrets for wasteful years. Never know that burning shame of a mean and petty past. To live that dying, he might say, all my life, all my strength were given to the finest cause in all the world, the fight for the liberation of mankind, close quote. And I think that sums up Ebie's life. But Ebie, as was said, was a very good listener. He would listen to the senior members just as he would listen to the most junior members. And Ebie treated everybody the same. And I think we should emulate Ebie. He was a beautiful human being, a disciplined cadre of our movement. And if we did nothing but just followed on his footsteps, this movement of ours, this glorious movement, the ANC, would be a very strong movement. We need many Ebies. We should turn ourselves into Ebies. And if we turned ourselves into Ebies, this movement would be a phenomenon movement. So we say farewell to you, Ebie. Your indomitable spirit will live on. Your humility, your faithfulness to the movement, your guidance will remain to inspire us. We will not rest until all Africa knows development, knows peace, and knows prosperity. Long live the spirit of Comrade Ebie, long live. Long live the spirit of Comrade Ebie, long live. Long live the spirit of Comrade Ebie, long live. Amandla. Amandla. Malibongwe. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister Nkosazana Zuma. We have heard from Shannon, we have heard from Minister Zuma about the South Africa that Comrade Ebie dreamt of, the South Africa he fought for, the South Africa he created together with us, and the South Africa that he left behind. But what many of you will not know is he was part of the creation of our future. I will call now on his daughter, an absolutely amazing child who was there with the father right through, slept with the father even as he had passed away. When we got to the house, she was there, refusing to move. And I could see in her, her father. He has left the seed, and I hope that most of the younger generation will take a leaf from her and the dedication she has for this country, for what the Father has given to us. And I now call on a very special little girl, Sarah. Please, will you come and pay tribute to your dad?
Dad, you're one of those special kinds of people, the really rare ones that shine their lights bright into the sea of darkness. You're one of those rare people who are perfect in every way. One of those people that anyone would have wished to have met and been inspired by in their lifetime. Throughout your life, you have always put everyone and everything else over and above yourself, but never wanted the slightest bit of credit for anything that you did. I've always admired how humble you are and how you would always say that everything was done as a collective and not by one person alone, making sure everyone got the recognition they deserved. Even from your days in the struggle, you were always fearless and brave, even in the absolute worst of times. You were truly beyond fear, and I admire you for being willing to die for the causes and beliefs you stood for. Your life hasn't always been happy, and you've gone through the toughest of times, but always seem to be happy and find the silver linings in every dark cloud. I love how caring and kind you are to everyone in all aspects of your life, whether it's to your family or your friends or a stranger you have just met, always wanting to make everyone feel better and wanting to help in any way that you can, and always spreading the Ubuntu spirit wherever you went. Your sense of humor was always one of your best qualities. You never failed to put a smile on my face. Whatever we were doing, you always found a way to make us laugh. We loved watching comedies together, and Trevor Noah was one of our favorites. You used to tell us stories of days on Robben Island and what strange things you and the other prisoners would get up to on your long days in the quarry. You would try to find the good in every bad situation. Your jokes and the fact that you could never hear us always seemed to make us laugh. One of the things you loved to do most was to travel. I remember us in a cable car on top of the Swiss mountains surrounded by white snow, or you watching us swimming in Mauritius only because you couldn't swim yourself, and us camel riding in the deserts of Syria. We had so many amazing memories together, and I wouldn't trade them for the world. Now that I say goodbye to you, I want to say, Dad, I admire you for how fearless you are in everything you did and all the sacrifices you made to let the people of this great country be free. You were an outstanding revolutionary and an extraordinary father. I'm so lucky to be able to call you my dad.
To you, Sarah, Kajan, and Kassia, your father loved you very much, and you have proven that you've taken after him. You lead this country for us. You lead it forward. Thank you for everything you've done. Thank you for every minute you spent with him. Thank you for looking after him, and thank you for looking after your mom. We love you very much. We love you, sweetie. And now I'd like to read a message from the Deputy Secretary General of the African National Congress, Comrade Jessie Duarte, who could not be with us because she is in hospital. And the message reads, to my dear brother and friend, Ebie, many people will hear of your heroism and not fully understand how a young man in the 1950s felt such a deep-rooted passion for all the people of our country, that he offered his life in sacrifice if it needed to be taken. You suffered all the atrocities the apartheid regime could and did visit on black people. It is your humility I drank from in the over 30 years that I got to know you. You never put yourself forward for selection or election. You patiently explained the intricacies of Rwanda versus the DRC to me, the complexity of the terrain that all marginalized people face throughout the globe. In the past year, thank you for your counsel. Thank you for listening. I will hold you in the highest esteem forever. Your friend, your sister, who loves you dearly, Jessie Duarte. Thank you, Jessie. We'll now proceed with our program. And at this time, we will be going on to reading the obituary, which will be read by Comrade Ebrahim and Eunice Sheikh.
Ebrahim Ismail Ebrahim joined the liberation movement as a young activist in 1952 and participated in the Congress of the People's Campaign, which drew up and adopted the Freedom Charter in 1955. He was active in all the campaigns of the 1950s, and after the banning of the African National Congress in 1960, Ebrahim joined the armed wing of the ANC, Umkhonto Sizwe, in 1961, and became a part of the Natal Regional High Command. He was arrested in 1963 and was accused number 1 in the Pietermaritzburg sabotage trial, otherwise known as the Rivonia trial. Ebrahim was sentenced to 15 years on Robben Island and served his sentence to the last day. He was released in 1979 and was immediately banned and restricted to his hometown in Durban. In 1980, as per instruction of the ANC, he went into exile. After spending time at the ANC head office in Lusaka, he underwent military training in the ANC camps in Angola. He was then deployed by the ANC leadership as head of the ANC's political military committee in Swaziland. The ANC senior organ in Maputo decided that, as one of the senior leaders, he should be infiltrated into the country in January 1985 to assess the situation on the ground and make contacts with the Durban underground units. When the apartheid regime became aware of his presence in the country, he went into deep hiding for some months before exfiltrating back to Swaziland. In December 1986, Ebrahim was kidnapped from Swaziland by the South African National Intelligence Service on orders of the apartheid regime's top brass and detained in John Vorster Square, where he was severely tortured. He was charged for high treason in a highly publicized trial that lasted until 1987 and sentenced to a further 20 years imprisonment on Robben Island. He was one of the only political prisoners to serve a second sentence on the island. In 1991, the appeal court ruled in a landmark judgment that his abduction from a foreign country was illegal and that the South African court had no jurisdiction to try him. He was subsequently released from Robben Island in 1991. In July 1991, Ebrahim was elected to the National Executive Committee of the ANC, and he also became a member of the National Working Committee. He worked full-time at the ANC head office Shell House and was tasked by Nelson Mandela and Walter Sisulu to establish the Patriotic Front. As the main convener of the Patriotic Front, Ebrahim brought together over 93 political, religious, community, cultural, and civic organizations. The aim of the Patriotic Front was to achieve consensus on both the negotiation process and the final outcome of the negotiations that led to the establishment of a democratic South Africa. Ebrahim also participated in the CODESA negotiations as part of the Security Committee. Ebrahim remained a member of the NEC until 2017. Ebrahim was elected a member of the National Assembly of Parliament in 1994. He was elected chairperson of the Foreign Affairs Committee and became a member of the Joint Select Committee on Intelligence. Ebrahim resigned from Parliament in July 2002 to take up the position of Senior Political and Economic Advisor to the Deputy President. Between 2003 and 2009, Ebrahim was involved in numerous conflict resolution initiatives around the world. He was invited on a number of occasions to participate in Norway's Mediators Retreat. Among the conflict arenas he had worked in is Israel and Palestine, Sri Lanka, Colombia, Bolivia, Nepal, Madagascar, Burundi, the DRC, South Sudan, Zimbabwe, and the Central African Republic. Ebrahim became a director of the conflict resolution NGO in Transformation Initiative, ITI, with Rolf Meyer. Ebrahim served as the ANC's International Affairs Head from 2007 to 2009. In May 2009, he was appointed the Deputy Minister of International Relations, a position he held until 2014. He then served as a parliamentary councillor to the President until 2019. Ebrahim continued to mediate conflict throughout Africa and the globe with ITI. The President of South Africa awarded Ebrahim the Military Veterans Decoration in Platinum in 2012 in recognition of his sacrifices made to bring about peace, democracy, and freedom in South Africa. Ebrahim was also a recipient of the prestigious Pravasi Bharatiya Samman Award from the President of India in 2013 for exceptionalism in his field and bringing prestige to India. Ebrahim was also bestowed Spain's highest honor from King Philippe VI, the Order of Servile Merit, a knighthood at the rank of Knight Commander, in 2015. Ebrahim passed away on the 6th of December at his home in Pretoria, and he leaves behind his beloved wife Shannon and children, Sarah, Caden, and Cassia.
You may be seated now. We shall now be proceeding to part 2 of the program. As you know, this is an official funeral, and at this point we will hand over to the police, who will be presiding over this portion where the Premier will be addressing us. Before the police come in, we have a tradition in the ANC where we fold our beloved flag and give it to the beloved widow of our hero. I shall ask Comrade Paul Mashatile to stand by. I believe the police are better at folding the flag, Paul, than yourself. So we shall ask the police, please, to come in.
Thank you very much, Program Director, the bereaved family, our seniors here today, and protocol observed. My name is Pastor Jonas Masotla. I'm the chaplain in the South African Police Services. As it was reported here, we are now moving into part 2, which is the official funeral. Now that the flag of the party has been removed, I will now ask my colleagues to come and cover the flag, the casket with the flag of our country. Thank you very much. We are now under the flag of South Africa, and we are now officially into the official funeral. We'll therefore ask the Premier of Gauteng, Premier David Makhura, to come and give his message. Premier.
Thank you, Chaplain Masotla. The Director of the Funeral Proceedings, Minister Lindiwe Sisulu, Mrs. Shannon Ebrahim and the children, and the entire Ebrahim family, Minister Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma and the leadership of government. I did see Minister Ayanda Dlodlo in our midst. The leadership of the ANC led by the Treasurer General, Comrade Paul Mashatile. I also saw a member of the National Executive Committee here, Dr. Zweli Mkhize. the stalwarts and the veterans of our liberation struggle. I saw a number of them here. Comrade Mek Maharaj. I saw also several of our veterans here, members of the diplomatic corps, including friends from abroad of Comrade Ebrahim Ismail Ebrahim, respected scholars of the Muslim community, compatriots and fellow mourners. We have gathered here today at West Park Cemetery to bid farewell and pay our last tributes to a gentle revolutionary, Comrade Ebrahim Ismail Ebrahim, simply known as Ebie. Comrade Ebie belongs to a very special generation of freedom fighters who forged a persuasive vision for our country in the most difficult times and practically build unity across the racial divide, across ethnicity, across class, across gender, across religion, and across nationality, simply inspired by and in pursuit of the ideals of freedom, democracy, non-racialism, non-sexism, and human dignity for all. Comrade Ebie will be buried here at Heroes Acre alongside some members of that special generation who have shared a common vision and common values. Amongst them, Uncle Harry Mahoti, Uncle Reg September, Uncle Ahmed Khatrada, George Bezos, and there are many who lie here. So Comrade Ebie joins them today, but he departs from us, and we are left with palpable pain as the reality that is no more cuts very deep. All those who know him know his deep humanity and his unfailing humility. And we can sense that void today. So on behalf of the provincial government and the people of Gauteng, and indeed on behalf of the people of our country, we convey our deeply felt condolences to the family, to Shannon, to Sarah, to Caden, to Keisha, and the entire family. We hope the family will draw comfort from the canvas of Comrade Ebie's solid contribution to the cause of our struggle and to the cause of humanity. And we hope we will all draw lessons from his character as a gentle, a calm, a kind, and a courageous human being. So today we stand here to express our gratitude to you, Comrade Ebie, for the 7 decades of unbroken struggle and for a life dedicated to the service of humanity, as well as the supreme sacrifices you made for justice, not only in our land, but also for peace across the world. We all know that you participated in all the key and seminal moments that shaped the history of South Africa after the Second World War. And some of those key seminal moments would include the Defiance Campaign, the preparations for the Congress of the People and the adoption of the Freedom Charter, the formation of MK and the involvement in the armed struggle and in the underground missions, which earned you 2 incarcerations on Robben Island. You were also in exile. You came back and participated in the negotiated settlement for our country's conflict. And you continued to participate in international peace missions and in the building of our democratic state. So we know you strode all the pillars of our struggle, all the different phases of our struggle, and worked with the various generations of the liberation struggle with great ease, of which only you, with your character of being this calm and quiet colossus of our struggle, the soft-spoken and humble leader who used soft power, that is the power of persuasion and reason, to lethal effect. Throughout the many decades of your involvement in the struggle, you were subjected to many life-threatening and soul-testing moments, but you remained loyal to the vision and the ideals of freedom, democracy, non-racialism, non-sexism, social justice, and equity. You never wavered, and you never sold your soul. We can hear you in your own words as you explain why you stuck it out despite the overwhelming odds that you faced in many different times in the history of our struggle. And I would like to quote you, and this is how you explain the rationale behind why you stood your ground. I quote, "I'm often asked how we were able to survive the long years of imprisonment and also maintain an amazing level of morale and determination to continue the struggle once released from prison. The fact that the authorities failed to break us down was due to our commitment to the struggle and our firm belief that ours was a just cause and victory was certain." It is this theme of justice that has characterized Comrade Ebie's life. We today face new battles as we battle to rebuild the institutions of our democracy and focus them on the mission of serving the people, and to renew the movement that has led the struggle for many decades, the ANC. We need to place the question of the values and the principles at the center of this enterprise of renewal and regeneration. And those principles must always include justice and equity. They must always include the question of non-racialism and non-sexism. They must include the integrity of our conduct. They must include our commitment to serve the people of our country. And they must include an orientation of humanity and humility. The magnitude of Comrade Ebie's contribution to the cause of South Africa's struggle has not been adequately acknowledged during his lifetime. And we have a lot to do to acknowledge the contribution that Comrade Ebie has made. The challenge to all veterans who are gathered here today, I saw also Comrade Ronnie Casrils. The challenge to all of you veterans gathered here today is to help South Africa understand the story of this country. I know, Comrade Mac, you are doing that, but it is not enough. We must urge our veterans to contribute to the historiography of our struggle, to illuminate the subjective historical processes that culminated in our democratic order today. Many in the young generations do not understand what our country went through. And very easily, they come to the simple conclusion that the old generations have sold out. Very simply, because they don't understand the type of enemy we faced. So it is the telling of this story, like Comrade Ebie's story, that will help new generations understand what they themselves has to face as their own mission and the struggles they have to wage, with a full appreciation of what was achieved by those who came before, and a full appreciation of what they must accomplish as new generations. For the struggle continues, Comrade Ebie knows. We owe it to future generations, to those who have passed on, and to posterity, to articulate the narrative of our struggle about how we came to where we are today. Anything short of this will be to easily succumb to the weaknesses of our inability to shape the future we want. In the annals of the history of our struggle, we know Comrade Ebie's name will be there. Ebie has made an impact we still have to fully understand. His name echoes amongst the many names of those who contributed selflessly. But it is Ebie's calm and quiet contribution to the struggle that must inspire many in our generation, especially in my generation and in younger generations, to understand that humanity and humility must continue to inform what we do. That Ebie decided to join the struggle only at the tender age of 13 in the early 1950s is an humble demonstration of his commitment to humanity. As we gather to send him off today, this gentle giant of our revolution, we are awestruck by the sense of the historic occasion. While this day is no doubt one of the saddest in our country's history, and to you, Shannon, and the children, but our country pauses to take note that a man larger than life, a figure larger than life, once strode our shores, quietly, calmly, soft-spokenly, but always seeking to assert the most supreme values of humility and humanity. This is one individual whose worthy life has been dedicated to our country. No account of our country's history can fully be written without the name of Comrade Ebrahim Ismail Ebrahim featuring there. Whether it was in the preparations for the writing of the Freedom Charter, or it was in the early activities of Umkhonto Sizwe, or it was in the discussions and the debates on Robben Island, or it was in exile in the frontline states, or back in the country, including when he was abducted in Swaziland, or during the negotiations for a peaceful transition to democracy in our country. Comrade Ebie made his presence felt, always with a calm, quiet, and kind voice, unassuming, self-effacing. He was a quintessential revolutionary in the mold of some of the most revered revolutionaries in humanist struggles all over the world. It is indeed an emotional moment today as we bid farewell to the one who lived only for others. We feel the sheer weight of your passing, Comrade Ebie. Comrade Ebie, may your passing not just be one of those moments, but may it inspire us to strive for a truly free country and a more humane world, a vision for which you lived and strove for up to the end. Comrade Ebie has run his race very well. He chose to live a life within the revolutionary camp because the concrete conditions of his life transformed him into an agent for change, an agent for unity across the different racial and class forces in our country, an agent for freedom and democracy, and an agent for non-racialism. Comrade Ebie's life of sacrifice, of simplicity, of courage is a great lesson to humanity. He embraced the vision of our founders, the founders of our democracy, and he lived that vision every day. We are pleased that he has lived long enough to continue contributing to the building of our democracy. Our democracy is going through pain today. And your passing today, Comrade Ebie, must inspire more, both inside our movement and in society generally, that a better South Africa is possible, and we must all strive for that better South Africa. And those of us who are in the ANC, Minister Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, I agree with you, must also believe that a better ANC is possible. And a better ANC is first represented by the life Comrade Ebie lived. Just everything he did, and just how he related to everybody, and just the values he lived, and the vision he espoused. That should inspire a new generation of men and women in our country to continue to fight for a country, South Africa, envisioned in the Freedom Charter. So, Comrade Ebie, we bid farewell to you today. As we bid farewell to you today, we know you were not just one of us who made a contribution to some historical moments, but you were part of that history yourself. You were part of the historic moments yourself. As we bid farewell to you today, we know on Sunday the 5th, we marked 8 years of the passing of the founding father of our democracy, Nelson Mandela. Tomorrow, the 8th of December, it will be 4 years since the passing of Comrade Isuchiba. And there are many in these generations who represent the best that South Africa can ever produce, and the best that South Africa can become. So, I would like to conclude by quoting William Safire, who says, "Any past event is historical, but only the most memorable ones are historic." Comrade Ebie was not a historical figure. He took part in the history of our country, but he was himself a historic figure. We say farewell to you, Comrade Ebie. The struggle for a united, non-racial, non-sexist, and just society continues. For we are nowhere near the dream of a better South Africa. Farewell, our leader. We thank you.
Thank you, Premier. We will now call Lieutenant Colonel Sandy Mkhize to come and lead us as we are going to conclude the official part. Colonel Mkhize.
Ministers present here, Premier, all protocol observed. I'm Lieutenant Colonel Mkhize, the marshalling officer of the day. I was informed that the procedures of official funeral will end inside the church, because after removing the South African police flag, then the Muslim cloth will be placed on top of the coffin. So we are going to remove the flag, and we will request the trumpeter to play the reveille and the last post. That is part and parcel of memorial of our official funeral, and thereafter we'll hand over to the Imam. Thank you.
We're going to request that we rise and we call the trumpeter to come as we play only those two. We are not playing the other one as agreed. Play. The flag will now be handed over. Thank you very much. This brings us to the end of the official part. Over to you, Minister.
Thank you very much, Premier, for providing us with the honor of an official funeral for our dear Ebie. We're now on the third part of our program, and I'll ask Comrade Vadi, please, to come and explain the process as we move on to the last phase. Thank you very much.
Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Minister Sisulu. We're now going to be proceeding with the Islamic rites. We will be following three very simple steps. The first is that the Muslim burial cloth will be placed over the bier, and the following persons will assist to take the bier to an identified spot just at the back of me, where the bier will be placed, and then the Imam Qari Musa Sidat will take his place. So the following persons will assist us with this is Comrade Paul, the Premier, Comrade Zweli, Comrade Ronnie Caswells, Comrade Mac Mavaj, and Comrade Yunus. If you can assist with 4 members of the family. Salim, you can just arrange that for us so that you can come in front. So Mohammed, if you can do the honors of placing the burial cloth over. So that's the first step. Once they are ready, we're going to be moving out to that spot. The second part is the congregational prayer, which will be led by Qari Musa Sidat. There we are humbly requesting the men to line up behind the Imam, and the women can line up on the side, on the left-hand side of the men, facing the coffin that will be placed in front. The prayer will be not more than 5 minutes. So it won't be, I know it's hot outside, but it will be a very quick procedure. And then once the congregational prayer is done, we will be then moving to the grave site, which is about 30 or 40 meters further down, just as you come in. And there the formal burial proceedings will take place. And the identified members of the families will descend into the grave and then intern the body. And there's a soil throwing ceremony, so anybody can participate in that. And once that is completed, then Qari Musa Sidat will offer a prayer. And after that, we thank you all for your presence here and for sharing this very deeply saddening moment with us. But it's important, it's a spiritual moment in many ways, and then people can depart. Thank you very much. So if the people can line up in front to carry the coffin down.
we need them. Yeah, bring it a little forward.
You can stand right here.
Ebie?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. This is a simple procedure of the Salatul Janaza, which is it's a very simple procedure of the Salatul Janaza. What is the Salatul Janaza? We are praying not only for the deceased, but we are praying for all of us that are alive also. One of the prayers is, we say Allahu Akbar, Allah is the greatest, Almighty is the greatest. And then we will say, one of the prayers is, Allahumma filli hayyina wa mayyitina. Oh Allah, forgive those who are alive and those who are dead. Wa shahidina wa ghaibina, all those that are present and those who are not present. Wa saghirina wa kabirina, those young and old. Wa dhakarina wa unthana, male and female. Allahumma man ahyaytahu minna fa ahyihi ala al-Islam. All those that are alive and Allah has bestowed us with life, that we may be steadfast on Islam. وَمَنْ تَوَفَّيْتَهُ مِنَّا فَتَوَفَّهُ عَلَى الْإِيمَانِ. And all those that have passed away, Allah bless them with full faith and conviction. That is what a Salatul Janaza is. It's a very simple procedure. It will take only about 3 or 4 minutes. Are we ready? Uncle Ismail? Uncle Ismail, are we ready? And we've got the coffin, the box, in such a way that the head is on the right and the feet is on the left. Qibla, the direction to Mecca, is in front of us. When the body will be lowered in the grave, then the family members will tilt the body also towards Mecca, and it will be a very simple burial. Once they lower the body into the grave, they will take some planks and they will put them at an angle, and thereafter we will throw the soil. Allahu Akbar. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika wa tabaraka ismuka wa ta'ala la sanaka wa la ilaha ghayruka. Allahu Akbar. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama sallaita wa innaka Allahu Akbar. حينا وميتنا وشهيدنا وصغيرنا وكبيرنا وذكرنا وأنثانا. اللهم من أحيته منا فأحيه على الإسلام ومن توفيته منا فتوفه على الإيمان. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. We're just going to take a walk down to the gravesite, just a few meters away, and we'll appreciate if we carry the janaza instead of just passing it on. It is a sunnah way. You just give it to me. Yeah, you can. Just there. Put your fingers on the side, gentlemen, by the planks. Let's go down. Put your fingers by the planks. Right. What's your open grave here? Aki, come. Salim. No, huh? I understand. Who's going?
Salim.
Where's Salim?
Go. Running.
How are you? I did ask Ronnie about you. First, I said, how is Amit? Always.
Instead of a picture of you with no grave. You came for interview in the office. Really early days. 1990. Yes. I had you.
Please hold. Yeah. Okay. Can we? Bismillah.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا
Excuse me one minute.
I think I remember him from the reading. Shorty, yeah, Maury. Yeah. Can you believe? Comrade is that my brother Mikey, but 53, right? This is one massive house, two houses, one. By the end of it, so about 50, every time we went down, we would take hard. What are you doing? There's no meeting at all. After lunch, we just have to do time.
we called that night, he was in the shower. He said, no, the doctor was investigating. Really cheap.
We asked cadres how to bring it, but they couldn't find it. What it was, they were going to cut power. They had power, they cut it. We with the generator, they cut that. Just pick up your foot.
What we're going to do is, you can take some sand. We're going to cover the grave now with soil. You can come in a line and just throw the soil. You can take 3 spades and just throw it in and move away, so we give others also a chance to do so. Please, you can start from Uncle Ismail. We can start from there. منها خلقناكم وفيها نعيدكم ومنها نخرجكم.
very upset.
I know.
Very
Amazing man.
Yeah, oh, what how you cook, man.
Need more of him, hey?
Oh, yeah. You know, completely great man. Great person. Wonderful person. Very, very good.
Family's been strong.
That's the, you know, the people who look like, I also like, I don't think of myself as an age bracket.
He's well known.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you very much. I think of course I'm dreading coming, you know.
No, we all. You know,
but
you
can't.
Everyone's been very good with masks.
Yeah. No, I wasn't. No, I was hello at my last week.
Yes, no.
You know, I worked with him only because of the school. We developed that bond.
No, he was just, he always had time for everything.
You know, the thing that always, I used to always smile and just think of sitting there with us and with Dad, because I liked him. But the two of us were only the ones who weren't cooking something. You know what we like? And we used to always laugh about that. At least the two of us used to huddle together so we didn't stick out. And then the thing that I just wanted to think, make people know this man is sitting here. And he never once made himself better or tell people, you know, it was just like that. So that kind of humility is what's gone wrong with our country.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
People who do things
and he really felt the struggle.
No, he did. I mean, you know, he was not bad in the country. He was very badly tortured.
And for him to be he actually started his life at the age of 65.
Exactly.
That's when his life started. It's crazy.
Exactly. That's the thing that always been fascinated about him. You know, man really started living. Exactly. Exactly.
Never stopped
Nothing.
Okay.
Nothing like that. No hard work for anybody, anything.
Now we need
Take it off this thing. Oh, you want to take out the mic? Okay, take out you want to take out the whole thing. Oh, better.
I'm going to put your stand near the back here, huh? Just out of the way.
Oh, no. Yeah, there are children.
Take a plank out. Right, sharp. Just bring little here. Justice. One scoop.
1 minute.
What's there, boy?
Ahmed, watch out. Watch out.
Give me a spade from that side, Yasin.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل يا أيها الكافرون لا أعبد ما تعبدون ولا أنتم عابدون ما أعبد ولا أنا عابد ما عبدتم ولا أنتم عابدون ما أعبد لكم دينكم ولي دين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل أعوذ برب الفلق من شر ما خلق ومن شر غاسق إذا وقب ومن شر النفاثات في العقد ومن شر حاسد إذا حسد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل أعوذ برب الناس ملك الناس إله الناس من شر الوسواس الخناس الذي يوسوس في صدور الناس من الجنة والناس بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ألف لام ميم ذلك الكتاب لا ريب فيه هدى للمتقين الذين يؤمنون بالغيب ويقيمون الصلاة ومما رزقناهم ينفقون والذين يؤمنون بما أنزل إليك وما أنزل من قبلك وبالآخرة هم يوقنون أولئك على هدى من ربهم وأولئك هم المفلحون وإلهكم إله واحد لا إله إلا هو الرحمن الرحيم الله لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم لا تأخذه سنة ولا نوم له ما في السماوات وما في الأرض من ذا الذي يشفع عنده إلا بإذنه يعلم ما بين أيديهم وما خلفهم ولا يحيطون بشيء من علمه إلا بما شاء وسع كرسي السماوات والأرض ولا يؤوده حفظهما وهو العلي العظيم آمن الرسول بما أنزل إليه من ربه والمؤمنون كل آمن بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله لا نفرق بين أحد من رسله وقالوا سمعنا وأطعنا غفرانك ربنا وإليك المصير لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها لها ما كسبت وعليها ما اكتسبت ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين اللهم صل على سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا محمد وبارك وسلم اللهم أنت السلام ومنك السلام حينا ربنا بالسلام وادخلنا دار السلام تباركت ربنا وتعاليت يا ذا الجلال والإكرام اللهم ثبتنا على الإيمان ومتنا على الإيمان واحشرنا يوم القيامة مع الإيمان بحرمة القرآن وبحرمة النبي آخر الزمان. اللهم حبب إلينا الإيمان وزينه في قلوبنا وكره إلينا الكفر والفسوق والعصيان وجعلنا من الراشدين وجعلنا من المتقين وجعلنا من الصالحين. اللهم اغفر لحينا وميتنا وشهيدنا وغائبنا وصغيرنا وكبيرنا وذكرنا وأنثانا. اللهم من أحييته منا فأحيه على الإسلام ومن توفيته منا فتوفه على الإيمان. اللهم اغفر لهم وارحمهم وسكنهم في الجنة. اللهم اغفر لهم وارحمهم وأدخلهم في الجنة. اللهم اغفر لهم وارحمهم وأكرمهم في الجنة. اللهم اجعل قبرهم روضة من رياض الجنة. قال الله تعالى في شان حبيب: إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا محمد وبارك وسلم. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
I got it all already. Took it already. Here. Oh, God, you're not going to say anything else.